G'day everyone and welcome back to the Big Swing Noting podcast, sending those bales back to New South Wales. Since 2019. It has been a hot minute since we were in this seat here talking about cricket. It has been a bit too long, to be completely honest. I absolutely miss doing this. Been a bunch of stuff going on in my own life. For me to be able to sit down and talk to you guys about the cricket, which is just something that I love doing so much, and I absolutely missed it dearly. And I figured, what better way to come back than right into the World Test Championship Final. Now, originally I was planning to do an episode every single day, and a day's recap of the World Test Championship Final, and I still sort of aim to do like something similar, or at least give relevant updates, but you know, it is raining and we're getting like such interrupted play. Like 3 days have passed and only like 1 day's worth of play has actually happened. We'll probably, like a day and a half probably, you'd say. And so, you know, it has its limitations. Like day one obviously wasn't going to talk about it being washed out and whatnot. Day two, only really got a session and a half. And there wasn't really too much to draw from it. But I have a bit to say about the World Test Championship Final, the inaugural World Test Championship Final, and how good is it to have these two powerhouses of world cricket over the last 3 years meet up in the ultimate test. I'm a huge fan of the World Test Championship Final concept. I think it's it is similar to ICC innovations that they've tried to implement in the past, i.e. the Champions Trophy, where the concept is so good in theory. Like, for the Champions Trophy you'd have, like for the World Cup you have, like, 14 teams, 15 teams, all in the group stage and whatnot. So it's like, it's a full circle. And then Champions Trophy, top 6 teams, well, I think it was the original plan, and they all play off, or it might have even been top 4, top 5. Which, like, in theory that all works out well, but then, like, you get a bit money hungry, expand the Champions League, Champions Trophy to 8, World Cup shrinks to 8, and then it just sort of loses its purpose. So I think the ICC has a pretty bad track record of, and like they don't run the Asian Cup very well, and then they had the Australasia Championships a long time ago now. It didn't work out. Like, they've had so many good concepts, but they haven't been able to execute. I really, really hope that doesn't happen to the Test Championship, because even though this first edition has had so many flaws and they've had interruptions that obviously has been out of their control, it hasn't been like perfectly well managed. Like, they could have done it a bit better, in my view, especially with given how uneven the fixtures were in the end, how uneven the scheduling was, how uneven the points distribution was. But like, overall, I think the two best teams did end up into the final, and I think ultimately you can't really argue too much with that. You still have to win tests wherever you go. You still have to beat whoever you play. You can only beat whoever you play in front of you. India certainly did that. New Zealand did that for 90% of the Test Championships. So I think they're both very worthy to be meeting here in England for the World Test Championship Final at the Rose Bowl. It's a shame it couldn't be at Lord's. It would have been really cool. And before we actually get up into the review or the recap and give my analysis and what I think about the first, I guess, 2 days of play, first 3 days technically, I'd just like to talk about quickly. Yes, England reigns a lot, and it's really frustrating. I get it, you know, and I can completely understand some people's frustrations with holding big events in England and so much series there, and the amount of cricket that England do tend to get as a country, as a cricketing team, and so forth. And furthermore, how much of that doesn't even eventuate in the end. And it looked like we were going to get a repeat of that for this World Test Championship Final when the first day got washed out, and we've had numerous interruptions over the next 2 days. And I've seen a lot of comments saying it should never have been in England to be in the first place, and we should never have big tournaments in England again. And I know, you know, a fraction of, you know, there are a fair chunk of those that are satirical, and they've just taken the mickey out of England, which I fully support. Always take the Mickey out of England. Very, very good. But my only issue is England, while it has its condition, or no, I'm not even going to say conditional limitations. It has its weather limitations, its light limitations. When the cricket is going, it is unmatchable. The conditions you get in England have the most exciting contest between bat and ball anywhere in the world, and it's honestly not even close. If this match was to be held at, I'm not sure, like the MCG, for example, it's a pretty flat deck, you know. And although the stadium itself is, like, in my opinion, it's more suited to a final than Lords, it's not, you know, it doesn't scream. It's not right completely for the first Test match to be, first Test Championship final to be, in my opinion. Sorry, and if I'm gonna pick anywhere in the world to play a series of Test cricket, one-day international cricket, T20 cricket, I am picking England 10 times out of 10. No hesitation. The contest between bat and ball that you get in England is so good. The hundreds that you have to get, the work that you have to get to, the work you have to put into to get to 100 for one batsman is insane. It's so good to watch. It's what makes Test cricket exciting to me. It's what Test cricket's all about. The tactical surge, when you, like, whether you bowl first, when you bat first, when do you attack this player, when do you use the pitch to use the bounce more, which we've seen so much in these first 2 days already, because the pitches are always changing. And, you know, honestly, part of the weather makes it a bit more interesting because the pitches are so unpredictable. Usually at the Rose Bowl, it tends to spin like quite a bit on day 5, day 4, but I'm not sure we'll actually see that in this test because of the conditions. It's such an interesting battle. And that's what I love about England. You always feel like something's in the match. You always feel like something's going to happen. Like, I mean, as an Australian, I will go back to the last Ashes series that we played over there. I can quite honestly say I get thoroughly get a lot more enjoyment from watching the Ashes midnight in England, right, than I do during the day in my own backyard, right? It's just, I'm not sure what it is. I think because like, although, okay, I was sort of thinking about this the other day, like, you can sort of point to similar ways in India, right, where you've just got like such rank turners, right, that it's pretty much unplayable. And I like a bowler's pitch. I think if the batsman is made to work for the runs, it provides for a more interesting Test match and way more intense and way more tactical, which is exactly what Test cricket's all about. And although spin, when it's a rank turner, is so threatening, the biggest threat in any form of cricket is fast swing bowling. Like, why do you think most teams have three paces in their teams, if not 4? It's because it's the most dangerous mode of bowling, and it's and England, the English conditions favour it so much. So then you've got the optimum fast bowling conditions, makes it so hard for the batsman, and that's what I love, because you have to really work against the toughest conditions to bat in the world. And if you've got a bowler with his tail up, like Kyle Jamieson was, like Jofra Archer was in those Ashes series, Jason Holder was really good when West Indies toured, Jimmy Anderson was amazing. It happens every summer. There's always a standout bowler, or at least for a period of time where you feel like, right, this is like grind time. They're gonna take a wicket, or the batsman is just gonna dig in. They've got to dig in for their absolute lives, and that's just what I love about playing in England. So for me, personally, I think absolutely the first World Test Championship final should have been held at Lords. Given that it got moved, I think it probably would have been more suitable to be somewhere else. But given that, you know, Lords, it's the heart of cricket. Like, it's not just the home of cricket, it's the heart. It's what keeps cricket pumping. It's what keeps us all intrigued. It's what keeps us up at night. You know, that's what cricket is. That's where it is. And I'm all for a Lord's first Test Championship final. And I would fully support if they chose to put Lords as the venue for the next final. Or if it's just, honestly, every final after that. I'm not sure how they're going to work that. If you can have different venues bidding on it and such like that, and what the schedule of the World Test Championship final eventuates as. I think it'll be all very interesting to see what the ICC does with this Test Championship, because it does have so much potential. Now, anyway, now that we've gotten through all that, World Test Championship final, England versus New Zealand. India all out for 212, yeah? 217. 217 they were out for on day 2. Luckily, we have the reserve day, so it was pretty much day 1. I don't know. It was day 3. Pretty much day 2. And the batting was really strange to me, I thought. And although you had Rohit and Shubman Gill, who opened up really, really well. Shubman Gill especially, he just looks like so good. He is going to be an incredible player for India. I don't think there's really a shadow of a doubt. I think he's going to absolutely destroy some teams. And he's always looking to take the game on. Unfortunately, he for his sake, he got out to Neil Wagner, whom, by the way, bowled a terrific spell. He always bowls terrific spells. He always puts in. And even though these English conditions potentially don't suit Neil Wagner as much, he's still going to bowl like that, man. And he's still going to take wickets. That's part of what makes Neil Wagner so great. Anyway, so then Shubman Gill goes out, and Rohit Sharma goes out first, then Shubman Gill goes out, and then Pujara goes, and you're sort of a bit like, right, wow, India are kind of in a bit of a hole here. So Pujara goes at the start of day 2, day 3, but I'm just gonna say that day 1 didn't happen, right? I'm gonna say that we're using the reserve day as day 5. Pujara goes at the start of day 2. And Ajinkya Rahane looked crap. I can't lie to you. He just looked timid. He looked out of focus. He looked like he wasn't sure what he was supposed to be doing. And I just realised I said Pujara definitely didn't go out at the start of day 2. He was definitely at day 1. Because they were at about 160 odd at the end of day 1. Anyway, Rahane really had to grind it out, and I've got to say, I really respect that. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He had to work for every bit of his runs, and sure, it wasn't conventional, sure, it wasn't pretty, but he knew what he had to do. He's a very thinking cricketer, Ajinkya Rahane, and he just knuckled down, and he gave himself a chance to push through it, to finally find at least some aspect of his hands, because even though it felt like after he got past 25 odd, he still was striking the ball really, really poorly. And I really admire that from Ajinkya Rahane, and you can see why he was India's last Test captain before Virat Kohli. Now, you know what I mean. Now, Virat Kohli played really well. His runs were great. And then he came down the track again to Kyle Jamieson. Well, he didn't come down the track, but he didn't play a very good shot to it. But far out, man. Kyle Jamieson. This is the topic. This is the main headline of day 1 and 2. Kyle Jamieson is the first bowler ever to take a 5-for in the Test Championship final, and he will be etched into history for that. Unless Ravi Ashwin takes 8 or something, which I don't think will happen. But whatever. Who's to say? Test cricket. Anything could happen. Kyle Jamieson took 5 for 31 of 22 overs. And he was, for the most part of that innings, his economy was like 0.81. He was just getting it. I'm not even sure. I can't even describe the way that Kyle Jamieson bowls. It doesn't, when he approaches, he doesn't even look like, when he approaches, he looks like he's going to bowl, 160 clicks. But he doesn't. He bowls 135 clicks, which just, it sort of grinds my gears a bit. Like, he should be bowling 150 effortless and then using his swing and accuracy. But you know what? It works for him. If you're a New Zealander, you hell of ain't complaining. It's just, for me, as a neutral fan, it's not very pretty to look at, and it's a bit unsatisfying. Whatever. It's a me problem, really, because he's obviously just some amazing cricketer at this point. He's 26 years old, and I think that, he's got a Test bowling average of 15.12 before this Test match, and that's only going to go down. Oh my god, he's just I can't. It's unbelievable what Kyle Jameson's been able to do throughout this Test championship. And the first, how many tests has he played? 12? 8. He's played 8 tests to start his Test career, and no one can pick him. No one can play Kyle Jameson. I honestly can't explain to you why. I honestly can't. Even though Kyle Jameson's accuracy is probably the best in the world right now, or at least like his combination of accuracy, swing, maybe not so much swing, accuracy and bounce is undoubtedly the best in the world right now. It's like players still haven't picked up on it. It just blows my mind. There's no one do the homework on Kyle Jameson. Like, obviously this is very easy for me to say as an unprofessional cricketer and will never be remotely a professional cricketer. I just find it very, very interesting because to me, Kyle Jameson's going to pitch it up full. He's going to try and entice you into that drive, and he's going to try and get you to edge off. He's going to use that bounce to make you uncomfortable. And like that's how he gets all of his wickets. And no one can play him. I actually, to be fair, like the way Virat Kohli got out, part of it may be that he was playing so much for that Kyle Jameson just ended up giving him a stock ball, and because Kohli was so reliant on the bounce, he just missed it completely, and it went onto his back leg, and he was middle and leg. It blows my mind. It really blows my mind. But Kyle Jameson, like I say, if I had to pick any attack in the world right now, I would go Kyle Jameson as my first choice. Pat Cummins, probably Jasper Bumrah, maybe Rabada. I'm probably dumb, and then Ravi Ashwin as a spinner. He's come. He hasn't necessarily come from nowhere, because I think everyone sort of knew that he was already good, but at Test level, I think it could be the fact that every team tries to play for this bounce so much that they end up just overthinking the hell out of it and playing right into his hands. But then, of course, in the case of Rishabh Pant, he just played a trash shot. Like, I don't know what Rishabh was doing, man. He just stood still and fished at it. Bro, cricketing one-on-one, especially in a Test match, when you're at the start of your innings, when you're 4 from 21, you don't fish outside off, especially when it's swinging away from you, especially when it's bouncing, especially when you don't use your front foot. Anyway, man, Kyle Jameson he put this Test match on New Zealand's terms, because, like I say, there was a lot of India's batting that I really liked watching. I thought, like, Virat's such a nice batsman to watch, man. I could just watch him all day. The way he just timed it, it's just so effortlessly, especially through the cover. He just gets that punch. Not dissimilar to Devon Conway, but Devon Conway is just full timing. He just, like, gets it up there and gets the punch. Kohli just, like, he stamps it. He puts the Kohli authority on it. And it's really, really watchable. And that's why he's probably been the best batsman in the world for 8 years now, right? Again, there was so much to like. And they managed to get him out for 44 off 132. Him and Rahane, I was really impressed with their defense. They absolutely knuckled down to really strong patches of Neil Wagner bowling, especially. Trent Boult had a really good spell. Might be in his second or third spell that he came back into them. And he had a pretty nice spell. He was very tidy. Colin de Grandhomme was really disappointing. And, like, although he had a fair economy, it was 2.67, number 32. Like, it's nothing terrible, nothing abysmal. But it just felt like he just let the pressure off a bit. And he was lucky that Kyle Jameson was on the other end, just bewildering them. And then Neil Wagner is Neil Wagner. He's just going to intimidate you all day long. He's just a crazy man. He's a man possessed. So I think Colin de Grandhomme's a bit lucky there. It could have been a lot worse for New Zealand there. But you know what? They managed to get wickets. Tim Southee didn't bowl that bad. I thought he actually bowled reasonably well. He was unlucky to go for 64, 1 for 64. And yeah, I think, look, as good as Kyle Jamieson was, and as good as the bounce that he gets, as good as he is implanting doubts into batsmen's mind, so much of this has got to go in the Indian batsmen, man. They all position them, pretty much, all of them position themselves to set up for a good innings or to set up for a good partnership at the very least. And then they just stop paying attention. The most frustrating thing in Test cricket, well, cricket in general, really, but especially Test cricket, given you've got so long to bat it out, and it is a full grind house. It's just when you lose it, you just stop watching for a minute, and it goes right past you. Or you nick it off, and you play a silly shot, you don't use your front foot. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. Yeah, so that was pretty much the first innings. India out for 217, and New Zealand looking like they will take a first innings lead as they are 2 for 101. Although, having said that, they do have Ross Taylor at the crease who only came in for a couple balls, I think, in the end. Devon Conway, pretty disappointing last over dismissal. But wow, what a start to Devon Conway's Test career. I don't know if any of you guys saw, I don't know how many of you follow my personal account at the Nelsie Show. I posted on my story when I saw that Devon Conway was making his Test debut and New Zealand won the toss, elected to bat. And I had a look at the pitch and I said, right, this pitch is an absolute road. Put the house on Devon Conway for a double ton on Test debut. And y'all know what happened. The rest is history. Anyway, aside from that, Devon Conway, again, he played a really nice innings for his 50. But Ishant Sharma, man. Ishant Sharma is an absolute beast in English conditions. He's probably in my top 5 bowlers in the world if I'm picking attack in England. I think it's made for him. It's made for Ishant Sharma, the English conditions. It's made for most fast bowlers, especially of his stature, especially of his style, and his pace and the like. But yeah, the way he gets his pitch, his movement, it is so well made, well manufactured for England rather. I think Ishant Sharma probably holds the X factor if India are to get back into this match, because right now they are well behind, I would say. And although 100 runs isn't it is probably a bit more in this Test match, given how suited the conditions are to fast bowling, especially, and I think conditions are only going to get harder. I think today the batting may be a bit easier for New Zealand. I think the pitch might harden in a bit. I haven't looked at the weather for Southampton at the moment over today really, but presuming that it's kept fairly dry, I think that the batting conditions will get a little bit better, which is good for New Zealand right now. But if they don't stamp their authority on this innings and they don't take at least an 80-run lead into the second innings, they could be in some real strife if the pitch does start to harden. Because if it gets to day 5 and they're batting last, Ravi Ashwin is going to pull them apart if it starts to harden. My only question with that is, I think that the conditions have been so murky and so overcast, there probably is going to still be a lot of moisture just around, and it's probably not going to harden up that much. So that's why I don't think batting last is such a significant disadvantage at the Rose Bowl for this Test. But nonetheless, I would prefer to be batting first. But nonetheless, I would be preferring to bat in the third innings. I wouldn't prefer to be batting first, because I think Kane Williamson did the right thing by winning the toss and looking to bowl, not just because of the overcast conditions and he was likely to get quick wickets, but because the conditions were only going to get better for batting the next day. And it worked out. It worked out for New Zealand. They're 2 for 101. They need 116 runs to draw level with India's first innings total. Now, Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor, new to the crease last night. Kane Williamson he hasn't looked quite in nick, which is crazy to say because he's Kane Williamson. He's the best batsman in the world right now. I don't know. He seemed like just like this much off. But his this much off is still like exponentially better than everyone else. So it might not make a difference. But if he is that much off and Ishant Sharma gets a rip snorter to pull away from him or come into his off stump, I think that could be detrimental to New Zealand's chances. If Kane Williamson goes early in the first half of the first session, I think it'll be about even for the first innings. Henry Nicholls has been in pretty decent touch, at least over the last year for New Zealand, so I think he can probably score about another 30. Ross Taylor, I don't know. I'm not sure. If he does, I don't think these conditions really suit his batting, but if he does, get on top of the bowlers early, if he does go for the attack as he normally does, he may rattle India. I think with this attack, it is possible that India don't have an answer to his aggressive tactics. And I don't think Jasprit Bumrah is going to be that effective in this test. He may still take 5, which, is pretty damn effective. But as effective as he could be, I think his ceiling is potentially lower than Ishant Sharma for this test. But that's just me. Mohammad Shami may just be a rotational bowler, just to lock things up from one end, while Ravi Ashwin goes at one end, while Ravindra Jadeja goes at one end, while Bumrah and Ishant go from the other end. I think that'll mostly be his job, is to just not give him an inch, which could really work out, especially towards Ross Taylor, where he's going to be built up, he's going to be a bit frustrated, perhaps he's still, one of the best Kiwi batsmen of all time, so he does tend to find a way in these scenarios, so maybe he will just dominate on top of them, which is, it's all very possible. I'll be very, very interested to see how day 3 goes. I would give New Zealand the upper hand. Obviously New Zealand are on top of this test. But I think it's a bit closer than it seems. I think if they can see out Ishant Sharma's first spell, they'll definitely take a first innings lead. If Kane Williamson can, and maybe 1 or 2 others fall, it'll be about even. They'll still probably take a first innings lead regardless of what happens. But if Kane Williamson does go on past that first spell, if he does make it to lunch, he could be seeing at a pretty commanding first innings total, and that could be what decides the test match. It's all very interesting. It's all very, very interesting. Most people don't think we're going to get a result out of this test match. I think we will. I think we definitely will, provided that the rain stays away, which, is a big provision. It's a big thing to just sort of hope that it won't happen. But, if it doesn't happen, and we do get clear running for the rest of the test, of course it's still been bad light for the first 2 days, which really sucks. It really, really sucks, bad light. I don't like it at all. But I think we will get a result. I think we will. I think the conditions. This is again links to back what I was saying about England, especially Test cricket in England. It's just so suited to bowling, and fast bowling at that. I think it's always a result is possible. A result is always possible. Like, it just is. And a guy like Rishabh Pant, who has been the X factor for India this Chess Championship, or at least the past year, if he just gets that little glimpse, if he gets over Jameson, if he gets over Southey, I don't think you can really get over Wagner. He's just going to bowl he's going to bowl the same thing all day. He's going to make you uncomfortable all day. No one's ever bowled like Neil Wagner, and that's part of the reason why I love watching him so much. But if Rishabh Pant gets over half the New Zealand attack, then you're going to bring it back to just about level again. But that goes for any number of them. Because in my mind, India's batting is so good that like the ceiling is like up here. I think New Zealand's consistency is better and they're more reliable than India, but India's ceiling is up here. New Zealand's is probably here. Still, both very good respective batting sides, but you look like Rohit Sharma, probably best opener in the world right now. Actually, probably maybe not right now. Over the last 3 or 4 years, he's probably been the best opener in the world. Shubman Gill, most promising opener in the world. Jiteshwar Pujara will just stay there. He hasn't. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to see of Chet Pujara. He's been without a century for 3 years. Is it 4? He's been without a century for a long time now. And although like it's not necessarily his role to make runs, his role is there to just churn out balls and set things up for Kohli and Rahane and Pant at the later stages of the test. I'm not sure how much longer we'll see of Chet Pujara. But his role is very important in this series because if he stays there, if he takes the guts out of Southey, Bolt and Jameson, you never take the guts out of Wagner again. Then I think that'll go a long way for India. Kohli, don't need to talk about his ceiling here. Probably best batsman of the last decade, maybe even the best batsman of this century. I don't know. Ajinkya Rahane, we saw what he did over the last summer at the MCG. He's not quite single-handedly, but he went a long way to setting up that Test match win. It's probably one of the best overseas knocks I have seen in a while. It's probably in my top few, right? Vinci Jadeja, he's more than handy bat. He can absolutely pile on the pressure. Ravi Ashwin is a magician. He's a genius. He will just find a way to manipulate things. All of India's ceiling is up here. If it all goes right, they could turn an 80 or 90, 100-run deficit into a 200-run lead. And that could be what seals a draw. And if the pitch starts to harden, that could be what seals an Indian win. But conversely, I think it's more likely that New Zealand can just pepper away at them. Because like that's what New Zealand have done all Test Championship. And although no one has like really taken them... I'm not going to say take them seriously because obviously we all respect them. They're in the Test Championship final. They're in the best 2 Test teams in the world. They sort of haven't had that like killer instinct. And although we did see it a couple times against Pakistan, like right in the dying moments of the test where they were able to close it out, just. We haven't really seen that from them yet, so I don't really know what to think of them. I don't know what we're going to get from New Zealand over the next few days. But see, I don't know what I'm going to get from New Zealand because they haven't really been in those pressure situations for this Test Championship. But I'm more confident that they can get decent scores than I am that India can reach their ceilings. New Zealand, you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to score decent. And they're going to bowl decent. At the very least. Like, it's what you expect. And generally, they go well beyond that. That's why they're here. India, their floor is down here. Because they play so aggressive. Because they bowl so aggressive. Because they bat so aggressive. If it all goes wrong for India, they could lose by an innings. I don't think that'll happen, just because of the nature of this pitch, and because, I just don't think... I think India are just too good to lose by an innings at this stage of the Test Championship, but it could be a pretty big deficit that we could be looking at for the first innings, which is very concerning from an India perspective. From the New Zealand perspective, it is absolutely brilliant. They have absolutely got they've got an upper hand on this Test match, but they haven't got the strong hold on it yet. If they can, the first session of tonight will dictate who wins this Test match, in my opinion. The first 2 sessions at that. If New Zealand only lose 4 wickets over the first 2 sessions, if they only lose 3, if Kane Williamson is able to bat through them, if Ross Taylor is able to bat through them all, if Henry Nicholls is able to bat through them all, then you can expect them to take a pretty a good chunk of that first innings total into their own hand, which is great. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Because, like I say, this is Test cricket. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why I love this beautiful, beautiful game. I can't wait for day 4 tonight. Day 3, really. I think it's really good that they got a reserve day. Pretty much a no-brainer. Like, it's nothing to be really commended for because it's such an obvious choice, I guess, especially when it's in England. But I would like to see modifications to this final in the future. I personally would like a Test Championship final series, and then what that looks like, I'm not sure. Whether that's completely in a neutral venue, whether that's in you play one Test in India, one Test in New Zealand, one Test at Lords. I'm not sure what that looks like. Whether it's even 5 Tests for that sake. Like, I would honestly be down for that. I think that, like, that'd be really, really cool. Because then you're pretty much guaranteed a result. If it is a draw, that would kind of suck. And I think that would be a bit of a wake-up call to the ICC that, hey, I think they know that this format isn't perfect and it has still got its flaws and they will reform it. But it'll definitely say to them, hey, we need to make some changes for the next edition. And I really, really hope that they keep persisting with this, because it's been in the works for so long, and if it's implemented right, if the time period is right, I saw some suggestions it can all be like a 1-year thing, a 1-tournament thing, like a World Cup. I'm not really sure the logistics of that and how that would really work. That would be really, really tough for some curators especially, and just for a country as a whole, and just for the time and effort. It could really lose its buzz in that sense. But all the same, there have been times, like when you're playing a Test match over the last 3 years, that you forgot there's a Test Championship in the background. It's pretty easy to forget. But I do like that the structure the ICC is putting into place. I see the IWC. I'm not sure what it's called. The Super League for the One Day Internationals is great. It's like a promotion relegation. You got League 1, League 2, and then you got the Super League, which the Big 10 or Big 12, whatever they play, plus the Netherlands. I think that's really cool, and I think it's a really good path to qualification for the World Cup. The next stage for the World Cup is expanding it again. I'm pretty sure they just expanded it to 15 or 14 again, which is great. It would be 14 or 16, yeah. Which is great. The more teams in the World Cup, the better. It's a World Cup. It is not the best of the best cup. It is not the big financial giants. It's not a competition to see who can make the most money. It is every bit of the world that you possibly can into one tournament. It's no coincidence that some of the last World Cup was, arguably one of the best ever. But it's no coincidence that some of the most exciting World Cups of all time have happened in both 1999 and 2003. We had Zimbabwe almost made it to the semi-finals. Kenya did make it to the semi-finals, and it's because they had this setup that was so good. You had Canada were in there too, Namibia were all in there too, Netherlands were in the World Cup, which we haven't seen for a while, and I really miss that. I say I miss it. I didn't actually see it live, but it's so cool. It's so cool to see all these guys play against each other, and in that regard, it is a bit of the reason why I almost prefer the setup of the I prefer the setup of the T20 World Cup more than I do the One Day World Cup. Even though I find the One Day World Cup more enthralling. The Super 8s, the group stage, that's cool. That's great. Great stuff. And then you bring back the points carried forward system. Awesome. You make the qualification process even larger. You make the qualifiers even larger, that pool, and then you get a couple of wild cards perhaps. A couple of associate nations within the designated area. That would be really cool. Or you have an exhibition game even. the ICC needs to wake up in terms of the development of cricket. I don't want to say they're on the right path, but there is structure that could help that get back on the right path, and the expansion of cricket has the potential to grow even stronger. I'm not sure whether that will necessarily happen given the monopoly that the big three, but most notably India, like everyone says not everyone, they say the big three, India, Australia and England, have the monopoly on cricket, which is true. But they did abolish that financial model, which is good. Very good. It's not equal, but the more equal distribution is a lot better. Although those three are still the big three, India still have all control. India will have all the control of world cricket at the moment. Well, not all the control, but they have a large portion of it. That's why the IPL is still going ahead. That's why the T20 World Cup this year, last year rather, got postponed and the IPL didn't. There's a whole chunk of reasons for that, and it's part of the reason why they haven't attempted to grow cricket further and expand the World Cup. It's mostly just to protect these big playing financial nations, and prevent the ICC from losing a bunch of money by seeing them potentially crash out, which really sucks. It really, really sucks, because cricket would benefit a lot from seeing, I know they're not like a minnow team by any means, but just say like a team like the West Indies made it to a World Cup final. Like they went on this Cinderella run. If Bangladesh did, if Afghanistan made the T20 World Cup final, hell even won it, the headlines of that would be amazing. That's what you need for cricket. That's what makes sports so exciting. So stop trying to limit it down. Get the structure right, and just stick to your guns. There's a lot. This rant's turned into a a bit more than what I anticipated it to, but overall, I would say that New Zealand have the upper hand on the WTC final at the moment. Not a big call at the moment. If I was to guess, I would say that they would win by 5 wickets at this point. But I will give my updated thoughts after tonight's play, or the day after that. I'm not sure. I have my availability. I'll definitely give a recap on the overall game after this, and just look at some more future, and look at some more series. Like we got West Indies South Africa's going at the moment, and shout out to Jaden Seals. He's absolutely killing the game over there. Well, not killing the game, but he's been very impressive on his Test series debut, which is great. He's only played one first class match, and that was as a tour game for West Indies A. Shows how much they rate him, and I've rated him since the Under-19 World Cup, and he's a huge talent for West Indies, and I think West Indies, they have a few bright spots in that team now, and I look forward to talking about that soon. Thank you all very, very much for listening to the Big Swing No Ding podcast, or watching it. It's been the Ding. I completely forgot that that's what it was called. Yeah, this has been the Ding. If you're on we're all available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything you want. You obviously know that because that's how you're listening to it or you're watching it. Chuck a subscription on YouTube if you are listening to it, because it really, really does help a lot. Go follow us on Instagram at BigSwingNoDing_podcast. Again, helps the Big Swing No Ding podcast a lot. We've got big plans on the way for the end of this year and into next year. We're going to be revamping the set. We're going to be expanding the game like never before. We may also expand into AFL. We'll a bit more. I wanted to do a bit more into it this year. I did a couple Showtime footy for the starter finals last year, and it was good fun. I haven't published like a lot of the stuff I've recorded, and part of that is can't be bothered. Part of it was I don't think it was really good enough, and I'm a bit embarrassed on some of the topics, but it is what it is. The Big Swing No Ding podcast is definitely going to be expanding a lot, and I mean a lot this summer. We're going to hopefully be trying things that we've never seen before. Stay tuned for that, because we've got a lot of stuff going in the works behind the background. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Play it through.